Here sits mild-mannered Aiden sitting at her desk getting ready to save for retirement. She is now typing on the computer to find out where is the best places to invest her money. Look here, the government has come in to help Aiden.
Do you want an IRA retirement plan?
Yay.
Fantastic. Sign these papers and set up an IRA. Because you are saving for retirement, we won't tax you on the money you put into the account.
There's no way that a bee should be able to fly. Oh, thanks.
75 years later.
Aiden has saved up a ton of money for her IRA retirement fund. She is now an old lady and needs that money to help her crippled child. Her son has brain damage from a fall, but luckily she has the money to fix him because of her retirement fund. Oh no. It is the government, also known as Uncle Sam.
Gimme.
No, this money is for my disabled child.
Uncle Sam has always paid what he's owed.
This had always been Uncle Sam's plan from the beginning. Even though he did not tax the money when it into the IRA, he made there be an income tax when someone had to withdraw the money.
Later that same evening.
Cheated out of her money by the malicious government and their greedy ways, Aiden decided to plot a way of going around the government's tax. Aiden had a great idea to get back at the government. Tax evasion and tax fraud?
Ha 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 ha.
My name is Chris Shoemate, and I'm Kyle's father. And I'm an attorney, and I specialize in estates, estate planning, probate, trust administration, small business planning. And so planning for what to do with somebody's estate includes what to do with IRAs. And so trying to figure out how to pass down somebody's retirement account to the next generation in the most tax efficient way is a big part of what I do. So an IRA is just an acronym, IRA, for individual retirement account. And so it's basically a tool that the federal government has allowed people to put money into an account called an individual retirement account. And it comes with it certain tax benefits. And just very basically, the tax benefit is that if you put money into the account and it's done according to what the code provisions say, then you can take a tax deduction on your individual tax return. And so basically it's a way of saving for retirement and not having to pay tax on the money that you're putting into your retirement account. So biggest advantage of saving for a retirement account, saving with an IRA, is what I just said, in that you can put money into this account and you can get a tax deduction for it. So for instance, let's say that I have $5,000 that I want to contribute to my retirement. Hey, I'm not going to be working forever. I want to make sure that I'm saving for a time when I'm not going to be working, and so I have $5,000 this year that I'm going to be putting into a retirement account. If you put $5,000 into an IRA and you meet the certain requirements for contributing towards a traditional IRA, then you can not pay tax on the money that you've contributed. So basically, it's a way of incentivizing. It's a federal government's ways of incentivizing you to save for retirement. Just another advantage is if you put money into a brokerage account or if you put money into a savings account. So, I mean, one of the benefits of an IRA is that you can, have it invested in whatever you want to be invested in. So, anyway, if you put money into a brokerage account, that's nice that you put it into a brokerage account and that you can invest the money, but you don't get a tax deduction for money that you put into a brokerage account. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of flexibility that you can do with things that you put into an IRA. Disadvantages. So disadvantage is that there are limits to what you can contribute to an IRA. I think currently, right now, there is a $9,000 cap on monies that you can contribute to an IRA. Even if you meet all of the income and all of the rules, the maximum that an individual can contribute to an IRA is $9,000 in 2019. So it's not a lot of money. If you compare that to like a 401k, I think the maximum is like $18,000 or $19,000, something like that. And so, there's not a lot of savings potential there, in that you're not making large, contributions towards your retirement through an IRA. Another disadvantage is that even though you get the tax deduction that you get a deduct on your income tax return, you have to still pay taxes. And so, the federal government wants its money one way or another, and they're going to get their money one way or another. And so, all the money that you put into that individual retirement account has what's called a zero tax basis, which means that when you go to when you go to withdraw any of the money from the retirement account, you have to take all of that money with a zero tax basis. And so that means that you're going to receive a 1099 or a wage statement, basically, for the money that you withdrew out of the IRA, and you have to include that on your personal income tax return as income, and you have to pay what's considered ordinary income tax on that withdrawal. And so it's essentially like, let's say you withdrew $10,000 from that IRA. Well, it's like you earned an extra $10,000 in that year, and you have to pay income taxes on that extra $10,000. And so you don't get the capital gains favored rate, you don't get the dividend rate, you have to pay the ordinary income rate. The other big disadvantage is that you can't withdraw the money until you're 59 and a half. And so it is a retirement savings tool. And so in order to put money away, it's not like a normal savings account or a normal brokerage account where, hey, if I need this money, I can just withdraw it at any time. You have to wait until 59 and a half in order to withdraw the money. And if you take the money out prior to 59 and a half, not only do you have to pay all of that normal ordinary income tax on the money that you withdraw, but you also have to take a 10% penalty on the money that you withdraw. The other disadvantage is that if, let's say that you have this IRA that you've been saving for years, and let's say that you have other retirement assets, like you have a pension or something like that, and you say, you know what, I don't want to pay tax on the money that I put into that IRA. I'm just going to keep it there, and if unless I need it for some emergency or something like that, and that way then I'll save it for my children, so that they'll have it after I die. Well, the federal government actually doesn't like that. And so at 70 and a half, they require, like if you just decide that you're not going to take any type of withdrawals, they require that you have to take withdrawals at 70 and a half. So if you haven't completely withdrawn all the money by 70 and a half, at 70 and a half you have to take out certain withdrawals. And if you don't take out those withdrawals at 70 and a half, then you have to pay an ungodly tax, like it's something like 100% of what the withdrawals amounts were. So not only do you have to withdraw the amount and you have to pay a tax on it, but you have to pay this extra penalty that's like 100% of what the withdrawal amount was. So you have to take out RMDs, required minimum distributions, at 70 and a half. Last disadvantage is if you die before 70 and a half, or if you die before you've taken all of the money out by 70 and a half, then it's still considered zero basis assets when your children receive it. So usually when your children inherit assets, they inherit assets with a 100% basis, meaning they take the assets with a step up in basis and they don't have to pay any tax at all. If they sell the assets, they usually get a basis as of the date of death value. Well, that doesn't happen at all with IRAs. The beneficiaries take those assets with the zero basis, meaning they have to pay 100% ordinary income tax on, well, I shouldn't say they have to pay 100% tax. They have to pay tax on all of the assets that they receive, just as the owner of the IRA would have normally had to pay tax. Yeah, I would recommend setting up an IRA. The best time to set up an IRA is when you're working, because you can't make contributions to an IRA unless you're working. So you're limited to either $9,000 a year, or you're limited to your wage, whichever is lesser. And so if you're not working, or if you're making a very small wage, then you're not going to be allowed to contribute or take contributions to your IRA and be able to write off the contribution unless you're actually you have wages that is more than the contribution amount. So for instance, if I contribute $5,000 and I want to take a tax deduction for that, you have to actually have made $5,000 from wages from another job in order to take that tax deduction. So what I would say is, as soon as you're working, you want to save for retirement. If the company that you're working for has a 401k, they have some type of employer-sponsored plan or something like that, you definitely want to go with that, because the IRA is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the retirement vehicles, in that it's kind of the worst option of all of the options that are out there. But if you don't have a employer-sponsored plan, you definitely want to at least max out your contribution as much as allowed, so you can contribute and take that tax deduction, because it's nice to take a tax deduction for the money that you're saving for retirement. The downside is that you're going to be taxed on it later on, but you can deal with that later on. But when you're working and you're paying down your mortgage and you're having kids and you're trying to establish your career, it can be a tough time. And so having every last tax advantage so that you pay the least amount of tax possible can really be nice, because all of your income in those years can be used up in just high expense that's that goes along with trying to support yourself.
And that's all, folks.